Welcome to Money on Tap. Money on Tap, your personal finance headquarters, where we bring out the professionals' experience and some fun in what we call three-dimensional investing, utilizing insurance, brokerage, and fee-based planning. That's what we do on this show. We look at all sides of the issues, and we bring a fully independent planning perspective to the table. Welcome back. You are listening to Money on Tap. My name's Seth Crossman.
And I'm Ben Brayshaw.
And you can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info at yourmoneyontap.com. And we are getting close to a wrap on 2020. And it has been what a year.
I got to tell you, Seth, if I had 2020 on this year, I just would have taken a coma pill.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, I don't know how many people have had that year where they've just taken that extra long winter's nap and kind of sailed it right on through into 2021, or wish they could have. Is that what you're referring to, Ben?
I'm just saying that this is nothing short of horrendous. So, yeah, my 2020 on this year is don't do it again.
I amen to that. I completely appreciate where you're coming from. And it is it's a joy to be with you today, though. And it's a pleasure to be here.
It's a joy to be with you today, Seth.
You too. And that's what I meant.
Oh, you mean that
originally
wasn't directed at me? I don't appreciate the fact that you weren't enjoying being with me, and I actually reiterated that I thought I was responding to your statement. I'm kind of hurt here.
I am speechless, Ben. I'm
going to give you the show of a lifetime today, Seth. Show of a lifetime.
Because I'm about to push another. This is going into my 2020 calculator right now. Can I just take back that?
Rewind.
Take that back. You probably had some great plans out there for 2020. And here's one of the things lessons that we learn is that, plans change. They are moving targets, and they are, a lot of fun to put together, but you just can't depend on those things, right?
Who knows that better than a couple planners sitting here on this radio here and
right,
knocking out all the different variables that you have to do in life. I mean, Seth, when it comes to 2020, you think about, I remember the new year and thinking to myself, 2020 is going to be a great year, a great number, great year. I just remember having all sorts of positive thoughts about 2020. I don't have those thoughts anymore. Those are all wiped away quickly, sometime around April, preceded by all the following months afterwards. And now I have a little PTSD when I think of 2020. And, I'm kind of hoping that 2021 might be better, but it's not going to be hard. Like, I don't have any big aspirations, but I pretty much figure we should be able to be better than what 2020 was, which is sad. But as planners, we have to be prepared for variables like pandemics. So,
yeah, I was going to say I actually had a direction of where I was going to go with that, but I appreciate what you were saying there, Ben, and I'm with you. So, the plans change, but the planning work is indispensable to come back to, because if you had a plan coming into 2020, right? If you'd done the work ahead of time, even though you probably didn't have pandemic on your list of things to account for, the work that you did ahead of time prepared you to have a course correction if you needed it and be able to make that.
First of all, if you had pandemic on your list of things for 2020 going into the year, you might, though you would have been correct, might need to look at the optimistic pill.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. Hey, you reminded me of something that was memes of 2020, and I'm sure everybody's got one out there. I think my favorite one was 2020, where we learned that the Baby Shark song, that at least our kids, I don't know if you have young kids or not, but we've got little ones, and that was one of their favorite songs coming into 2020 was this Baby Shark. It went on Alexa regularly, and it opened up it opened up a portal to a parallel universe of disaster and death. So you know what? We haven't heard Baby Shark for a long time, and thank you, Jesus, for that. So don't do it, folks. That's what I got to say. We do have a fun show, and it's not going to be what? It's not going to be the show on the market. It's not going to be the tax show. We've already done those. We could do another market show. We've got some fun things to bring in about that. But this is going to be the show for you that covers estate planning, right? This is some stuff like what's slick? You know, do we just do clever to be clever? No, but we do make really appropriate moves when it comes to estate planning, and there's some different things that you can be thinking about through your planning in your estate planning to take into consideration. And what are some of the top ones that Ben and I have put together here for you today? It likely is going to be a couple of shows because it is a deeper dive.
This 2-part series is going to be, I think, a solid base to ask the right questions. I'm actually happy we're doing this. I think it's an appropriate time because, with the end of 2020 right in our face, you might need to make some estate planning moves, and some of these might trigger some ideas and thoughts. And I think, we were going to try to do it in one show. It's just way too much information. And honestly, we even cut some stuff out. It just was too much. But we have 10 estate planning opportunities for you today, 5 of which we're going to go through. Up next, though, before we jump into the estate planning stuff, we have money in the news.
First off, folks, the Christmas star will be the closest visible conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn in 800 years. Now, that doesn't sound a whole lot like money in the news for us, but we couldn't miss this event, and it is the season, right? We
just to throw it out there, I lost the bet on this one here, folks. This is not money in the news, but Seth wanted to do it, so I caved.
So what is it, right? It's winter solstice, December 21st in 2020, and it's actually a couple of days prior to that we're going to have this conjunction of 2020, and it will be the two giants of Jupiter and Saturn. They're going to converge as far as what we can see, and it's known by some astronomers as the Christmas star because of this belief that the biblical tale of the Star of Bethlehem could have been a planetary conjunction. Although 2,000 years ago, Venus and Jupiter were the closest, and not Jupiter and Saturn, as is the case for the Christmas star of 2020.
So to break it down, this could not have been the Christmas star, but it
couldn't have been. It could not have been. But we're going to call it that this year because it's 2020. And guess what? Unless you're going to stick around for another 800 years, you might want to take a look.
If you're looking for your astrological information, contact Seth at 855-226-8551. I'm going to leave it at that.
Because this is going to be about as the extent of my knowledge or information moving forward. Other than I'll point you in the direction of.
No, this is a good article. I mean, it is interesting. It's supposed to be brighter during this time of year because of the star, so that's positive, I guess. No, but they said this will be the first time in 800 years a planetary system will be visible by the naked eye, which is interesting. I mean, that is pretty cool. So. We'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll probably be overcast, and that's my 2020 thinking. Sorry. Go ahead.
So what I didn't do is I didn't talk to you about the comet this last summer. So
no, but you wanted to, and I remember you wanted to. So
I wanted to go check it out, and I never got there. And this is likely the case with this because it's it's a little bit of a glimpse. You gotta look in the western sky, and if you are in the Portland, Oregon area, that western sky might be a little bit of cloud cover during those days, that December 18th through the 21st-ish. And it's right after dusk, I think, is when you got that window. So, DoorDash in the news, if you didn't know, it's actually this is a Wall Street Journal article that is about how DoorDash pulled ahead in the food delivery war. And I didn't know there was a war.
I didn't either. I thought we pulled all our troops out.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
Thank you,
apparently,
Trump, for doing that, though, by the way. Trump's been pulling out troops everywhere. Did you see that? I was pretty impressed. I think Somalia, I don't know, it was like 4 different places he was getting troops out. So, but I didn't know about this war. Keep going, Seth.
Oh, gosh, drink a coffee. I thought you were going to take the mic for more than more than that second there. The food delivery company DoorDash, is set to go public, valued at more than $30 billion. And here's a look into the San Francisco-based startup leapfrog the rivals to become the dominant player in a competitive market. And I did not even know that there was so many people in this market. I've used Grubhub. I've bought Grubhub in the past and sold it. And anyways, DoorDash is the one that's moving in here, folks. And it was an interesting look into what the numbers show as far as how they really have taken over this market. And primarily, while everybody else was focused on the cities, they said, hey, we're going to go ahead and get into the suburbs.
Yeah, I mean, this was a good move. I mean, this is a very strategic, very, placed move that really sent them skyrocketing in the space. I mean, they went from 1/3 to 50% of the delivery system, which is phenomenal. That's just an amazing overcomer right there.
Yeah. Yes, it is. So have you heard of Postmates? Is that something you're familiar with? Because that was one of their competition. There's Uber Eats, Grubhub's, Postmates, and DoorDash is the main competitors out there.
I have not heard of Postmates that I'm aware of.
It looks like it's certainly more popular in the California, Los Angeles market, I guess, which maybe. I'm not really, or Miami maybe. Not really a part of those, but good for them.
Yeah, this is interesting, and I know it's going public here, and by the time some people actually hear this, it will have gone public. But I don't know. I don't know if I'm a buyer. I know you and I were chatting about this. I don't know if I'm a buyer. I guess I'd have to see how the stock moves. When Facebook went public, I think it went public around $50 or $60 a share, and it rose all the way up to like 70 or 80.
I thought it was 30 and it bounced down to like 18.
Yeah, I think it bounced below 18 because I bought it at 18. And I said, 18, that's cheap. I'll buy it. So, and I'm just wondering if that's a DoorDash scenario, I mean, it's
very common. Yeah, a lot of these now this is a $1 billion IPO, which qualifies it as a unicorn. That's the term out there for these IPOs. And there was it was 2019. Jeez, that was a great year. Remember 2019?
Yeah, I do remember 2019. I didn't think it was a great year, but I think it is now.
Yeah, right.
Now I want 2019 back.
The good old days of 2019. There was just a whole bunch of IPOs, and there was a fair amount of them in 2020, but it did slow down a bit. But this was a big one. I'm trying to remember what some of the bigger ones out there were for 2019 off the top of my head. Anyway, some of the statistics out there were that the 2018 IPOs performed far worse in 2018. It was just kind of like that first year getting off the blocks. And so many of them just aren't even profitable, which is the case here with DoorDash as well. So the cautionary tale here is that they really haven't even posted a full year of profit. But the trend was that, the first year out of the gate, they really don't do that well. But that second year was ones that they were showing better gains as far as the market returns, maybe not necessarily profitability.
I don't know, Seth. I mean, I'm looking at this saying that people have been locked up, kept up, scared to go out, told not to go out for so long that, I think DoorDash is going public perfectly at the right time for them. But I think as soon as things kind of really lift, I think people are going to be done ordering out and brought to their house. I mean, my family wants to get out of the house. So I don't know that this is I literally think they're going public at the premier time, and they're going to get top value for it. And I think that's a concern for me. And not being profitable yet, I'm always skeptical on companies that aren't profitable. I like profitable companies. That's kind of where I'm at. So
you, Warren Buffett, a lot of other people out there included. So possibly just an interesting story. It really is a pandemic story, and possibly a short-term option for the traders out there that are looking for, what's the ticket. And I do like the strategy of just, kind of keeping an eyeball on it and possibly, bounce the bottom and quick trade in and out.
Yeah, I agree. Next up, folks, we have Elon Musk. Elon Musk, he's not going to be speaking live here today, but he is moving to Texas. I think he's just done with Silicon Valley. I mean, they were going to. I mean, he had to reopen his plant, and they threatened to arrest him. And he hired he got his legal team all up in their stuff, and said, we're not, and come and get me if you need to. And they decided to back down. But I think he's just sick of all of the craziness that Governor Newsom, and I do call him Newsom, has done, because I think he has just done a horrendously bad job with California, and he should be ashamed and embarrassed, honestly. And I feel bad for all the people in California. It's horrible. They got lawsuits everywhere in that state over trying to deal with things. But people are leaving left and right, and it's becoming something of a little bit of, like, it's cool to move out of California, and that's bad for them. He was quoted, the governor was quoted saying that he, really wanted Tesla and thought there was a place for them here and so forth. But the plant in Texas is going to be opening up this coming year. And Elon Musk seems quite happy with that. I think, matter of fact, Palantir Technologies, actually that's a company I actually purchased, which just happened to be in the headlines too. They were in the Bay Area in California, but they just moved to Denver, Colorado this year. So it's becoming kind of popular to get out of California. And the thing is California is they are financially falling apart. They have the highest personal state income tax in the country of 13.3% for people who make over $1 million. So if you're making over $1 million, you're paying well over 50% in taxes. They're getting hit on every side, and it's really pretty crazy. But to lose Elon Musk is a big hit for California in general, because they're bigger. Their market cap's now bigger than GM and Ford, and so that's a big hit to a state like that.
Yeah, there was what was it? Also Hewlett Packard, right? They've moved their operations out of Silicon Valley. A couple other prominent conservative venture capitalists, Peter Thiel, maybe you've heard of, or Keith Rabois, have cited that basically Silicon Valley's liberal politics as a reason for them to relocate.
Yeah, we should rename it. We should rename it Silly Valley, because it's ridiculous. Silly Valley.
I don't know that Los Angeles is necessarily conservative if you're in politics.
No, but it's just the stuff is ridiculous. The stuff going on there is just it's a nightmare. They think. Honestly, to get a little political or a lot political, they think they're doing a great job in California. You got Harris, you got Pelosi, you got Newsom, and they, Pelosi's nephew, by the way, if you didn't know that, they think they're doing a great job, and they want to roll that out nationwide. And that's a scary, scary thought, because they really have no clue. And honestly, if they're running it, they're going to shut us all down just like they're doing in California. We'll be fighting everything in court for every nick and cranny of rights that we have. It's scary. Even in the conservative states, they've rights left and right. Most churches are closed. It's like every church probably has some attorneys there. Sign them up and launch your lawsuit, and let's get our First Amendment rights back. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that, but that's really how I feel. So
there's a lot more meat on the bone there, folks. And certainly, Ben, I agree. That's going to be a wrap for this one. Woo! Yeah, hot biscuit. We have got some estate planning coming up for you. It's Money on Tap, and you can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. Folks, stick around. You're going to want to listen up to estate planning and what is a conversation you should be having at your dinner table right now about your estate plan. Thanks for sticking around. We'll be right back.
For a number of our listeners, they have a lot of questions, and you might be one of them. Today, we're just offering what we call Zoominars, webinars over Zoom meeting rooms, where we have top experts, Social Security, estate planning, and financial planning experts for you to speak with, do a private consultation that way today. We're also having webinar-based Zoominars where we're going to have multiple groups where you can be part of that and enjoy that as well coming up here in the new year. Give us a call at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com to schedule your Zoominar.
More Money on Tap in just a moment.
Folks, it is so much fun for us to bring you Money on Tap. My name's Seth Cressman.
and I am one of the hosts here at Money on Tap. I'm also a financial planner. That's what we do. That's what Ben and I do. And the fun part is we get to have this radio show and we talk about important things that we think you need to listen to and be aware of to help raise the bar as far as your financial literacy. It's a big part of what we're trying to do here. The other thing that we're doing here as well, as financial planners, we are welcoming you to come and call us and to join us at Brayshaw Financial Group. Experience what complete wealth management looks like. Let's take a look at all sides of the issue, get a three-dimensional perspective, and put a plan around your next step. It's so critical, and so many people just leave this part out, and then they find out later, oh, if I only would have known. Hey, don't let that be your story. Give us a call at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. If you have $250,000 of investable assets today, our plan is free to you. We think it's important for you to know the facts and have a playbook so you can have a successful retirement. Give us a call at 855-226-8551. Thanks for listening.
On this Cliff Notes edition of Money on Tap, we take a look back to a previous program where Ben and Seth offered some insights into some great places to retire. Here is a highlight from that show that focuses on a pretty good international deal.
You know, Seth, we've done a lot of shows on places to retire throughout the world and in the United States. We've done all sorts of different things. People have called us about, hey, where should I be retiring? Or what state? Is it Florida or Arizona? And what are the pros and cons to that? And we've done stuff on that. We've talked to people about that. But this is kind of a different slant of an article, and not necessarily worthy of a show, but probably worthy of a conversation for someone who's in this area. But yeah, I mean, Italy has said, we're just going to do a flat tax for anybody who wants to come live here, essentially. It's 100,000 of their currency, which I don't know what the actual currency exchange is on that. But currently, you know, Italy's tax rate's 43%. So if you're making $500,000 a year, or you own a business, $1 million a year, you don't want to give away 43% of your money. But now you just got to clear 100,000.
Yeah, so that's the income tax on all income generated outside of the country, right? So if you have your income domiciled outside of Italy, it's a flat tax, 100K or not? Yeah, 100. It is still 1,000 because it's a euro. It doesn't matter. 100,000 doesn't change necessarily because it's a dollar or a euro. It's still 100,000.
Right. In the same currency exchange.
Correct. Right. Yeah. So, anyways, that 100,000 is capped, and so that could be a huge play if you have income outside of Italy, right? Now, the income inside of Italy is that 43%. That's pretty notable and high. But the great thing about this solution is you can figure out a way to get to create your income outside of Italy and cap that tax rate, which could become incredibly low compared to what you're doing right now.
Yeah, I mean, basically, I kind of did some rough math, but you're looking at about, depending on the state you live in, whether you have state income tax or not, and New Hampshire and Oregon happen to be two states that don't, so that's kind of unique. But But if you live in some of these other states, like Massachusetts or any of the other ones that we, that's where you kind of get hit. But somewhere between $275,000 and $300,000 of income, you're breaking even with a move to Italy.
What was it? What was that again?
$275,000 to $300,000 of income. You're breaking even with moving to Italy, almost somewhere.
Yeah.
So if you want,
I love it. It's a dream come true.
For some. Right now, not necessarily.
Gosh, I'm already like the last scene of Gladiator, floating through the fields of Italy with my hands across the wheat.
Thanks for joining us for this Cliff Notes edition of Money on Tap, with great tips from the pros in three-dimensional investing, utilizing insurance, brokerage, and fee-based planning. Now here's more Money on Tap with Seth and Ben.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap. My name's Seth Kressman, and I'm here with Ben Brayshaw. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. We have a packed show for you today. This is an estate planning show, and we're probably going to have to take it in two steps, because there's just so much information that we need to try to cover, and so much good information for you. And it's the stuff that I'm sure that you're going to take to the water cooler, and as people are going to be swapping their Airbnb ideas or their, whatever the IPO is this week, you're going to get a chance to step in and say, I got some real knowledge here for you folks. That's what we're going to have some fun with. So we talk about estate planning regularly. It's a part of what we do as planners at Brayshaw Financial Group. It's essential to a plan as we work with our clients. And so what's important for our clients, we think is important for you. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. So what is it, this estate plan, right? How can these things come together? And how has this changed in the 2020 landscape? Well, we're gonna get into that. We have some new IRA rules. All right, that's the first thing actually that we're going to be talking about here. Is you want to start to rethink what the IRA setup is. So before the Retirement Enhancement Act in 2019 upended this IRA, stretch IRA provision that would allow beneficiaries, that would be of course the spouse, that would also be children or grandchildren, to be able to stretch out the distribution of an inherited IRA over their own lifetime. Now, you have this 10-year rule that's in place for those children or grandchildren or other beneficiaries, as long as it's not a spouse, that you need to consider that. Okay, so this is what's happened. Is this has actually changed or kind of flip-flopped some of the advice that we would have given previously, where beneficiaries that are not the siblings or the partners and are not more than 10 years younger than the account owner, okay, basically don't have that lifetime to be able to take that distribution. Okay, so Ben.
Yeah, no, yes. I was just going to say, I mean, there's the whole concept of stretching out your IRA was a phenomenal opportunity for people. And I mean, the government's come crashing down and said, nope, 10 years, that's the longest. That's it. That's all you get. And you got to take it all out over those 10 years. And like you had said, Seth, if it's a sibling that's, less than 10 years younger, or a partner, that's an acceptable scenario. And there's a lot going on inside the strategy of rethinking your IRAs. And I would actually encourage people, and we've talked a lot about Roth conversions this year. We've talked about it a couple different, probably 6 times? I don't know. It comes up pretty regularly. But as long as you're under, full retirement age, you can start converting those prior to RMDs, start converting those Roths. So, and they just moved the RMD age up from 70 and a half to 72. So, if you're not taking your RMDs yet, start doing it. This is a good opportunity for you to take care of that. The other thing is I would say target gift your IRAs, right? Knowing these rules and knowing that you have a 10-year distribution, maybe you do have a sibling or somebody that you want to have receive things. And we're going to talk a little bit about this too, but maybe you have a charity in mind in your estate. Maybe you just gift them the IRA and take advantage of them not having to pay the taxes, and then gift other assets to your family. So there's a number of different ways to talk about your IRAs and kind of break down your assets. And one thing we do is we really break down individual spousal assets. So we break it down by husband's assets, wife's assets, joint assets. If you have a trust, we'd break down the trust assets. And, we don't do that haphazardly. We have this kind of detailed orientation of what your assets are and how they're owned, so we can look at it from an estate planning view and make those educated decisions. If you haven't passed away and you're listening to the show, which would be the only way you could be listening to the show, that we know of, you can still make changes. So if you have planned on giving the IRA to the kids and they were going to stretch it out over their lifetime, and now you've got, you can swing this stuff all around, and there's still time. I mean, it's going to cost you legal fees and expenses and stuff to do that, but man, you could save your family a lot of money knowing what you can do today.
Yeah, right out of the gate, though, those IRA beneficiary forms, that's pretty much a readily available piece of paper that just gets changed and submitted. That's it. So the Secure Act also changed the required minimum distributions from that 70.5 to 72. I think you mentioned that, Ben. But if you're younger than the RMD age, which is that required minimum distribution, you can take a voluntary distribution and convert it to a Roth. And I think that's where you were going with that, is really taking advantage of some of those conversions.
Number 2 today, we have for you on the estate planning side, gifting assets now. Okay. Now, one of the things, some people say, well, I don't want to give my money away today. But there's a lot of things that, people sometimes when they actually think about what they want to do and what they want to accomplish, sometimes it ends up making more sense than you think. I mean, you can give $15,000 away to, to anybody without exercising your gift tax exemption. So a husband can give
$30,000 per couple.
Yeah, $30,000 per couple to a child beneficiary. So if you have, 3 kids, that's $30,000 each if you're married. That's a good amount of money. That's $90,000 you can get out of your estate. Now, another thing is you can upfront give on 529 plans, and a lot of people don't know this, but you can give a grandchild 5 years all at once into a 529 plan of $15,000. That's $75,000, and married, you can give $150,000.
$150,000,
yeah,
per beneficiary. So the usual gift tax exclusion is the first thing with this gifting strategy, because it has no impact on the estate tax exemption. So you're basically saving 40% on those gifts if you're going to be subject to the estate tax. So that's that first piece where this gifting strategy really has a benefit in that gifting early idea, right? On the downside of the 529, you can't spread the deduction over multiple years. And so if that's one of the things that's part of your 529 gifting strategy, you need to be aware of. So you're not going to get that deduction on those taxes. But and you also can't make additional gifts to the same person during the 5 years. So and there's more. If you die during the 5 years while you're spreading the exclusion, only a prorated amount applies to your estate. So those are a couple of the keys to kind of take away from that strategy.
So don't gift 5 years lying on your deathbed. That would be bad.
Yeah. No, why did that make me laugh?
I don't know. That's dark, Seth. That's dark. Yeah. Okay, number three. This is a big deal. Okay, this is a big deal because we're kind of in this like is Biden going to be president? Is Trump going to have some sort of election overturn? I mean, who knows what's going to happen here? But gift tax exemption, it's a huge opportunity to give assets away, and it's a huge, it's enormous. It's $11.58 million, as I just mentioned, and I think what everyone's really concerned about is that this is going down. I mean, this is gonna be lowered, and that's a big concern. So for people with large estates, this is wonderful. It's this high, and I remember in I think it was 2010. I think the gift tax went away for 1 year, and that's when Steinbrenner, I think, that died that year, and his whole $158 million bill. I don't know. However, the Yankees.
Yeah, I remember you talking about that. It's been a while.
Yeah, I mean that went away. That passed totally estate tax free, but it's at $11.58 million right now, and that's a big deal. And a lot of people are very concerned that this is going to be going down. And one of the things I told people long before we did spousal deduction trusts and all sorts of different things in the past, long before the rates got this high. But I still encourage people to take advantage of those types of trusts inside this, because if this thing drops back down to 2 million, 1 million, where it used to be only a short while ago, I guess if you're quote unquote lucky enough to die during, and whatever, this is a big deal, and it's something that's going to be something you need to watch and be careful. But talking to a financial planner or a estate attorney is going to be somebody who's going to help you kind of mitigate the pullback on that.
Yeah, so the IRS has given us guidance that indicates you will not be penalized for using your exemption while you're alive. Okay, but if you hold on to an appreciated asset when you die, when the exemption is lower, your estate will be higher because more of the estate will be taxable. So what happens is you use up the exclusion, and then Congress doesn't lower the lifetime exemption amount. You'll still benefit because there's less of an estate that can be taxed when you die. There's the trade-off. Okay, the cost basis of the gifted asset carries over to the person receiving the gift. Okay, so if you're going to end up being below the estate tax exemption in either scenario, might be better off holding on to the asset until death so that they can benefit from that cost basis or that step up in cost basis. And the other thing would be possibly that you might want to prioritize your economic security. Okay, so that's another option to consider in this strategy as well.
Well, and that's a good point, Seth, because you're talking about step up in cost basis. So that's like, if you bought stock for $10,000 and now it's worth $100,000 and your kids inherit it worth $100,000, their cost is now considered $100,000. So they're not paying capital gains on that, where your cost was $10,000. It's a step up period that occurs. But that's another thing that we talked about. I think it was last week we even talked about it, or the week before, about how a Biden administration wants to get rid of the step-up cost basis rule because they think that is, unfair to the other taxpayers. Do I think it's unfair? I think it's great. I think it's existed, and if we're going to start considering things fair and unfair, that would be a first, I think, because we don't do a lot of that in our government. But that is something to be aware of, because if you are doing some, step up cost basis planning, what if, let's say that's part of your plan today because the step up cost basis is here, but then it goes away. So then do you sell all your assets because you're not, and then reallocate and move it around? And then what happens if it comes back, right? Because you have both sides fighting this issue, right? Hopefully we go from one term to another and we're bouncing back and forth, and maybe we get the step-up cost basis back in 10 years if Biden pushes it away. I don't know. But those are things that require you to constantly monitor your estate planning, because it's not a one-and-done scenario, which is why this show will exist on our show next year and the year after and the year after that and the year after that, because changes constantly happen.
Folks, we're Money on Tap. You're listening to us. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. We are talking about estate planning. Now, this is bringing us out of the 2020 into 2021. Some of the things that we've been working through with our clients and our offices, and just getting prepared for that next step. You're listening to Money on Tap. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with more estate planning. Thanks for listening.
If you're listening today and, your questions are outside the box of estate planning or financial planning or any number of the pieces that we kind of traditionally talk about, don't forget that Brayshaw Financial offers auto, home, and business insurance. And we have an entire department that handles all of that for you. Give us a call at 855-226-8551 and be happy to take care of those needs for you. Or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com.
More Money on Tap in just a moment.
So, folks, it is a lot of fun to do what we do here at Money on Tap, and we get a lot of calls and a lot of inquiries about what next. And if you didn't know, we have Zoominars available for you. What's a Zoominar, right? It's where you get an opportunity to sit down with Ben or myself or one of our other associates and learn about Social Security techniques. Like, what does it really look like? Learn about long-term care. Learn about estate planning. If this is a topic, and there's several that we talk about on these Zoominars, if this is something that's of interest to you, give us a call at 855-226-8551. It's totally free. You jump onto a Zoom, you learn from us, you have fun, and you get to walk away with something that expands your knowledge and helps you take that next step. We appreciate you, folks, and we want to give you more. We want to raise the bar for all of us here to be successful in our retirement journey. Give us a call at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com and sign up for your Zoominar. See what's coming next.
Now back to Money on Tap with Ben and Seth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap. I'm Ben Brayshaw. You're here with Seth Cressman. Today we're talking about estate planning. We are on part one of a two-part series. You can reach us at 855-226-8551. You can also email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. And if you have questions about estate planning, this is a great place to push it out. If you're looking for information on a specific topic we cover here or next week, give us a buzz. Reach out to us. Number 4, what we're going to talk a little bit about is the irrevocable trust space and building an irrevocable trust for your spouse in a couple different ways and a couple different benefits around that. Now, just real quick, we've talked about revocable, Seth, and irrevocable trusts, and people get these confused all the time. Mm-hmm. And, an irrevocable trust is something that once you do it, you cannot undo it. Okay, like this is a signed, sealed, and delivered. You're done. And one of the things that people are doing is what we call SLATs or spousal lifetime access trusts. They're named. People have all sorts of names to their trust. It really doesn't matter what the name is, but sometimes they try to put a name that makes more sense to it. But you put the money away, you can't touch the principal, and it usually creates access to income or an income feature to it, which allows the surviving spouse to have an asset sitting out there. Now, we've talked about look back periods and all sorts of things on irrevocable trust for health concerns, and we'll get a little bit into that. But in irrevocable trust, you put this away, and then ultimately you can then your spouse can get money, and then it can go on to the kids or however you want it to be pushed out later on. And that's a very good way of getting money out of your estate and protected from all sorts of things, including creditors. I think that's probably one of the biggest issues is whether it's a government creditor or a regular creditor. It's a big deal to keep that money there. What's the number one issue with this? The problem is because you can't undo it. When you build an irrevocable trust like this, you really have to make sure that you're not having a need for money. Like you're not putting too much of your money into this slat and just becoming overly dependent on that. And Seth and I have worked, goodness gracious. Everyone wants to protect everything, but at the end of the day, you can't make yourself poor. The whole point of putting the money away was to live off of. So this is not a one and done only scenario. This is really to benefit that healthy spouse.
Yeah. One of the things if you're creating these slats for each other, some key things are that you can't make them identical to each other. And honestly, I don't even have a reason why. I usually like to try to dig too deep into that question, like why. If we can understand that, we understand more. But you just can't do that. And also there's longevity here that you have to consider. So really putting these things into place and having them set aside for a while creates the legitimacy here to the technique of what's going on, because there's certainly always somebody out there that's trying to challenge what the estate planning world is going to be doing. So another piece here, hiring an independent trustee to oversee the distributions. Okay, this is just one of those things that you really just need to put into place. And also there's the cautionary note about dumping your estate, basically your retirement wealth into them, or a big portion of your retirement wealth into them. So what is the asset test here? Really, you shouldn't fund the slat to an extent that your asset base is reduced below what's necessary to maintain your lifestyle. So that's really how you kind of gauge this here. And the other thing is just to remember, these are irrevocable. All right, the revocable, irrevocable thing there. If there's anything going on like a gray divorce, then really steer clear of this as a strategy.
Seth, I didn't understand what the term gray divorce was. I had to look it up. I had read that in one of the articles that we had found and putting all the stuff together. And, that's a business type divorce and people over the age of 50. I guess it's a very rising scenario. So
it's a surprise. It is really one of those things that you hear about and you're like, wow, that doesn't make sense. Now, I did have a lovely a friend of ours here locally that was in that situation, and they got remarried, and that was a nice thing to see.
Yeah,
always reconciliation, right?
Lord willing. Okay, so number 5, this will be the last one we cover today, but number 5 is carrying forward your spouse's exemption post-death. So, one of the things that happens is that, we have this $11.58 million estate tax exemption, and when one spouse passes away, they may not exercise the entire amount. So upon death, they can carry that forward. And that's a big, big deal. I know when we talk about $11.58 million, Seth, like I'm sure a lot of listeners just instantly tune out. Like, I'm just not there. And that's completely okay, because we're really not talking about the number. We're talking about the technique, because they will bring this $11.58 million down, and it used to be as low as $650,000. Okay, and so in today's world, you own a house and a 401k, and boom, you're over $650,000. And that's not a really high number, but that's where it started off before its huge skyrocketing rise that has pushed it to the $11.5 million. And this is something that you have to be careful of, that you don't get caught not thinking about this because it's $11.58 million and saying, hey, how do I do this? Because if they drop it to $1 million and, you and your spouse are, you're worth $1.5 million, you could push $500,000 or $750,000 into the carry forward bypass exemption trust, okay, another trust method, and utilize the exemption and try to max that out if it drops below. So these are really kind of things to be thinking about, and that's the spousal deduction trust, credit shelter trust. There's lots of different names for it. Doing that and creating that, because just because someone died and didn't do the trust, you can do that right after the death, and take advantage of that tax benefit. The other thing here is that when the second spouse does pass away, I think one of the things that is strong here is that just the heirs they just take control of the trust, and then they just distribute it out. And that's completely outside the second spouse's passing. And I think that's probably the number one thing that people ask is how the second round happens. I don't know if that we've covered that well enough, but it is a complicated scenario, but it's actually a lot simpler than it sounds.
Yeah. So, and this is one of those strategies that we see a lot more with the blended families. They use the trust to provide for a surviving spouse and then eventually for the children from a previous marriage. And that's one of those ways that those blended families really work these things out. Now, the tax savings happen when the second spouse dies. Okay, so this is, as the funds in the bypass trust go directly to the children, avoiding the estate tax. So that's really that.
And those assets in that bypass trust can grow indefinitely. They're never going to be taxed on the estate level at all.
Yeah, yeah. But they don't get that stepped up basis that we talked about previously. Right?
Correct.
With those assets. But, even the top marginal gains rate is lower than the federal estate tax rate there. So that's the benefit. And, there's a lot of considerations here with how to structure this. There really is no rubber stamp when it comes to doing this kind of work, because you are unique. There's what we have is the laws that are provided, or the code that is provided, and the methods that are available, but understanding yourself and your goals and your the context of your family and how you are really pulled together and your assets are pulled together, and seeing all of those pieces, this is certainly a lot larger conversation than we can have right now. Right, Ben?
Well, yes. Yeah. But I think the thing is this gives, one of the things about, I think, a show like this, and I would listen to podcasts and I listen to different things, and for people who are listening, it's the one or two tidbits where you say, you know what, I need to know more about that. I need that. That's something we're dealing with, or that's something I'm concerned about. And I think when we start touching on different topics and you want to dive deeper, that's when a phone call really comes into play, or drop an email to us. We can get you in touch with an attorney if you need somebody. If you need CPA, whatever you need, give us a buzz. We can try to hook you up with somebody that can solve that problem for you, understands that issue, if we can't help you ourselves. And that's 855-226-8551. And to email us, it's just info@yourmoneyontap.com.
Thanks a lot, folks. This has been a lot of fun. I can't wait to actually get into part 2 of this, and we'll be there with you this next week. So more from Money on Tap, more from Ben and Seth at Estate Planning. So looking forward to it. Thanks a lot, Ben.
Have a great week, everyone.
Thanks for joining us today. You've been listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. Also, we're in a podcast. You can find us at any of the podcast venues out there. We appreciate the likes and the listens. We're also at Facebook at /3D Investing and Twitter at BFG_LLC. We appreciate you joining us here today, and we hope you make it a great day and a great life. Thanks for joining us with Money on Tap.
There are a lot of pieces to helping our aging parents in the final chapters of their lives. On this Cliff Notes edition of Money on Tap, Seth and Ben look at the importance of addressing our parents' finances, something that needs to be handled with a certain amount of urgency.
Financial conversation can be one of those bridges. It just takes more time than maybe some of the others to really cross. So, whether there's medical needs or immediate right now or in the future, really just being aware of the finances here is what we're trying to talk about, is trying to just, think about what it is that your parents are doing and how they are engaging in their finances. Is it a checkbook? Are they online? Are they using, credit cards? How many do they have? How they operate around their finances is even just a conversation possibly that can introduce this and help that conversation move forward.
Absolutely. And I think, the interesting story too, I had in that scenario, just an example, there was a health change, an event. People said, hey, we want to come in. We want you to meet with our son or daughter. And everything was, it was a little bit of heart concern there. Some kind of stuff had popped up, and everyone was aware. Now things have kind of settled down, and things are a little better. Not perfect, but better. And they're like, we're going to try to do this stuff over the next 6 to 9 months. So what happened to, we want to meet with you next week, now turn into 9 months. And I'm talking to them. I'm like, listen, this is not an overnight decision. These are not overnight issues to address. They take months to address. So 9 months from now, if we sit down, it's not going to be like flicking a light switch from, off to on. There's a process, and there's a lot of work behind that. And I said, you still want to move with urgency. And some of the stuff they want to do, they want to put into a trust, and it's complicated, and they want to, they want to protect some assets, and they need a clock to start. And I said, listen, if you're going to do that trust, you have a 5-year clock. This is what they needed to do. And I said, if you wait 9 months, now you have a 5-year, 9-month clock, but you still haven't even had any time to get with the attorney and write the trust and make sure that's correct. So now you got a 6-year clock. You need to get that clock moving as soon as possible. And trying to explain urgency around making these decisions is really important, because financials are usually the number one thing I find that people do not want to let go of. They do not want to hand that over to the kids. They don't want their kids telling them what they can spend or buy or do. They think that's all about what this is, and it's not.
Yeah, making sure that you're documenting what's going on there. I've seen a lot of people kind of create a worksheet or, just kind of like an inventory, really, of all the different things that are going on: Medicare, long-term care policies, all these different policies, life policies that can be
have a list. Have a list for who your accountant, your attorney, your CPA. Right.
All in one place, easy.
And what we do is we provide a listing. We provide online access. We provide, documentation for a complete list of assets depending on the person's scenario. But we've done that for attorneys, for accountants, for people's kids. We encourage people to bring their kids into our office. We want them for 2 reasons. One, we want them to know what their parents own, why they own it, okay, and what the purpose of it is. Because after a plan's been put in place, having kids come in to evaluate a plan and figure out whether they think it's good, bad, or indifferent makes things much more messy than trying to understand why they went into this initially, and I really always encourage that, and I know Seth does too. So,
Thanks for joining us for this Cliff Notes edition of Money on Tap, with great tips from the pros in three-dimensional investing, utilizing insurance, brokerage, and fee-based planning. The views expressed are not necessarily the opinion of this radio station and should not be construed directly or indirectly as an offer to buy or sell any securities mentioned herein. Investing is subject to risks, including loss of principal invested. No strategy, product, material, or tool mentioned can assure a profit nor protect against loss. Please note that individual situations can vary. Therefore, the information, products, materials, or tools mentioned should be relied upon when coordinated with individual professional advice. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. This show may be subsidized in whole or in part by a product sponsor or issuer. Securities and advisory services offered through SagePoint Financial Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC, and a registered investment advisor. All other services offered through Brayshaw Financial Group LLC are independent of SagePoint Financial. SagePoint Financial and Brayshaw Financial Group do not provide tax or legal advice. Main office is located at 116 South River Road, Bedford, New Hampshire, 03110, and can be reached at toll-free 855-226-8551.